All right. All right. Welcome to week 8. The time is going quickly. It is already the beginning of June. I don't know where the first half of the year went, but it's gone. Sorry I was out last week. I forget what was going on, but it was a tricky week. We should be good from now to the end of the year. This will probably be the last recorded. Probably will be the last recorded Wednesday night session. Tuesday night session. We'll still have them. So we can continue talking about final projects, any questions that are going on. But with what I talk about today, that will finish up all the coding talk that we have. The weeks past here are, they talk about views, they talk about indexes, they talk about defragmentation, nothing really code related except for the indexes. I'm sorry, the views, and it's just a create view statement, which we'll pick up. And then we'll be talking mostly about final projects, any questions for that. So the meetings may last a long time, they may not. It depends on who brings questions to what's going on. So let's start with, are there any questions from the last couple weeks, from last week, week before last, this week's work, anything?
Oh yeah. So I noticed that last week you said that the what was it, conditional statements should have been in there, but I didn't see it in the reading anywhere. So I don't know if that's something that just needs to be updated to put that in the course for that week.
The conditional statements, or the case
Yeah,
statements?
case, yeah, the conditional logic, yeah.
Oh, that wasn't in last week?
No, it
They
wasn't.
may have been just me misremembering, because maybe this week is case. The reason I said that is because I've been doing a lot of corrections on the quizzes, and I
Yeah,
might have been looking at the week 9 quizzes instead of the week 8 or the week 7. So forgive me if I was wrong. Because week 7 is when I talk about case.
yeah.
So we're going to talk about that today, obviously. So I may have been a little off there. So that would just me misremembering. Because I kind of wrote the I updated the weekly notice on the fly, and I didn't really look and make sure I was telling the truth. So apologize for the confusion, but we'll talk about it today.
Yeah, it's all good. Actually, they've been having case statements for a while in some of the quizzes questions, I think, since like a few weeks ago. So
Oh, really?
yeah, just like
That must have
occasionally
changed.
I see them like popped in, and I think like one time in like week 6 or 5, there was like a monster query that just had
Mhm.
like case statements and a bunch of other
Mhm.
stuff that we haven't covered yet. So
Yeah, they might have changed. I might have to go through the quizzes more in depth, because right now I've just been correcting the ones that people have been pointing out are wrong. I've got, between you guys and the other instructors for the course, we've really been cracking down and getting these quiz questions squared away. But they keep adding new questions, so I may have just missed a couple on there. So apologize for that. But yeah, we'll talk about it today. If they had a case statement early on, was it asking about the case statement, or was that just a question that had it in there and asked about something else?
yeah, it had it in there. It was asking about something else, although the
Okay.
case statement was still kind of relevant to like
Mm,
the understanding of the query, though.
okay.
So
Yeah. So I'll make a note of that. And if they do that, I'll move talking about case statements up earlier into my lectures, because it's always been in week 7 I've talked about it. So as I've said before, I'm not in control of how this class works. I was actually pretty shocked when they gave me control of fixing the questions. So that was good. So we can keep that thing moving forward.
yeah, it's
But
nice.
yeah, I technically I can, well, actually technically I can edit the entire course now too, so I can fix any wordings that are there. But I'm not going to do that with it until I'm not going to start doing that until they like tell me I can. It's the whole asking for forgiveness versus permission. I I don't want them to get mad at me and like fire me. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the week 7 stuff. If there's no other questions on anything, where'd my thing go here? Let me share my screen. Let's share that. Share. Yep. Okay, that can go away. All right. So there is no quiz. There is no code talk for week 8. So this is all from last week. There are certain things we didn't talk about yet. So we're going to talk. Here's another function, the date function. So what that does is if you've looked at the film table, any table with a date time in it, it's a date time, so it has the date and the time in there. So if you want to get rid of the time, just use the keyword date. If you want to get rid of the date, just put the keyword time, and that works. So, and here we can do, we're do selecting title and payment and the date of the payment, and I want to get rid of the time. So I just want the actual date of the payment from film, entering inventory, entering rental, entering payment, and I'm ordering by the date. So, okay. So it's pretty simple. This is a query that's not too unusual. Nothing new here. Now, next command that we haven't talked about before. I've got a command here. I'm selecting the title, the count of the rental date, and the sum of the payment amount. So I'm getting the title, how many times it was rented, and the total amount of money that was made by renting it. I'm joining film, inventory, rental, and inventory and payments. And I've got a command. I'm going to change this. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to do, all I'm doing here is I'm going to do select this, and I'm going to group by title. And I run this, and it's what we normally see. We've got the count and the sum. And we go all the way down. Make sure everything's here. Okay. And it gives me Zoroark's been rented 31 times, and it grossed $214. Zoolander Fiction, $78.93, so on and so forth. If I add this command with rollup to it, let's see how the results are different. Everything looks the same until I get down here. And what happens with the rollup, it takes the sum of any column that's an aggregate. So here I say group by title with rollup. So I'm rolling up these two columns here because they're aggregates. So of all the titles, all 959 titles, they've been rented 16,044 times, and the total money taken in from the rentals is $67,000 and change. That's what with rollup does. It sums up any column that's an aggregate in a query. Does that make sense? Another command we haven't used is having. Having is the where clause for aggregates. You can't use the where clause when using an aggregate because it can't figure it out because it's aggregating something. So if you use having, it does the same thing where clause would be. So I've got the exact same query here, but I just added having sum greater than 1,500. So when I run this, here I had 62. What things? Let me change that to. They'll do. Oh, this one. Change that to 50. I don't think there's anything that's high. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and now I just have things that are greater than 50. Okay. Any questions on those? Okay. Now the case statement is probably one of my favorite things to play with because it's really a great way to manipulate data to get it really nice and prepared for the end user. So here I've got this statement. I'm getting title and rating from the film table, right? So what I'm doing here is I've got this case statement. So when I do a case statement, I start with case, and then I have when and then statements, right? So I've got the case statement, when rating equals R, then I want you to return not kids. When the rating is in G, PG, or PG-13, I'm going to say, I want you to return kids, and anything else is going to say no one, right? So what this is saying is, it's going to check this column, and then it's going to return this value. when this criteria is met. It's going to check this column and it's going to return this value when this criteria is met. And if nothing else catches it, it's going to return, that's a default return if nothing else is there for it to do. Okay. So when we run this, we have this. Okay. So I can do this, and I can, if I want to turn this for a user, I don't want them to see the rating. I can just do this. And now they're going to see what audience this is good for. And the rating is hidden from them. This would be a good, I see this, a good case for this is if you have something that's age sensitive and people under a certain age can't view or see or whatever, or if you have a website that's a membership, you want to have that hidden, but you want to say if they're a member, it doesn't, if they're a member, return welcome. If they're not a member, return like, here's a website to join, right? So it's just a way to really massage the data and get it out there in such a way that you want people to see it as opposed to the way it's recorded in the tables. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really great trick, and it's something that when you're dealing with customer interfaces, you use a lot. Now I'm not sure if it was in last week's test or this week's quiz, there's a question about, y'all know what pivot tables are? Anyone familiar with pivot tables? Okay. So pivot table, if you use Excel, you use them, and they're in Oracle and they're in MySQL. They aren't in, I'm sorry, they're in Oracle and they're in MS SQL. They're not in MySQL. So when I run this query, I'm selecting name and the count of the language from the film table. I'm joining the language table. So I'm just going to get the name of the film, the name of the language, and how many films are in that language. And this is what I get. I get right this here, right? So a pivot table would be to automatically take these and make this column the column headers, and this to be one row across. Does that make sense? I'm gonna show you what it is in a second. So instead of having name count here, I would have English. I'd have English 681, Japanese 146, and Italian 173. Now we can do that with a case statement, and this is kind of an abuse of a case statement, but it gets the point across here. So here I have my select, and I have 3 sum statements. The first one is sum case when language ID equals 1, then 1 else 0 end. So what this is saying is go through the language ID column, and if it's 1, record 1. If not, return 0. Now this is an individual case statement, and there's a sum in front of it. So what's going to happen is when this run, it's going to tally up how many English movies there are, how many Italian movies there are, and how many Japanese movies there are. The biggest problem with doing it this way is because you have to hard code these values in, and that complicates things, right? But this is just for demonstration purposes. So what's going to happen is it's going to have a column called English with this sum, a column called Italian with this sum, and a column called Japanese with this sum. So I've got this is the way it did look, and this is the way it does look. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. Same data, you just rotate it.
Yeah, and it's just rotated. Now this, because in your more media RMDBSs, there's a pivot function that will do this for you automatically, but you don't have it here. So I just showed it to you there. But it's a good look at how powerful a case statement is. Of all the things we've talked about this semester, this is the second most powerful tool that you have in your toolbox when it comes to manipulating and presenting data. The first one being joins, the second one being case statements. Because the joins allow you to get all the data into one view that you want to hand to somebody, And the case statements let you manipulate that data to how you want them to see it. Yeah. And that pretty much completes all the coding work that we have for the semester. The only thing we're in week 12, you talk about creating views, and all creating views is when you have your select, you do this. And when you do that, this query, make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so I've got that right. So now I go here and do slide star. Oh, hello word. I misspelled it. There. See? So that's all that is. So that's a great, and that's another way. Yeah, I'd put this like 4 or 5 in your tools, is if you have a report that needs to be given that you just want to create the select statement for, rather than giving someone a ridiculously long select statement, you can create a view with that select statement and then give them that select state. Say, instead of giving them like this, you give them this. And that's way easier.
Yeah.
Particularly when you generate a report from it.
Yeah, it's kind of like in other programming languages, like a function in a way, so you could repeat something quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is similar to a function. Something we don't really talk about here is a stored procedure. Which we have over here. A stored procedure is more like a function, because in
Okay.
programming like C#, you can put variables into a function. You
Yeah.
can't put variables into a view. So here I've got the stored procedure. So here, this is stored procedure. I create the stored procedure, right? And then I give it input parameter. So I would give this one here called film and stock. I give it a film ID. I give it a store ID, and then return the count. It would run this query.
Yeah, that's more like a true function.
Yeah, that's a true function. So yeah, so in stored procedure, that's not something we talk about in this at all. So what happens in this one, it runs this query, right? And it takes these two variables that you're putting in here and use them in the query. And then because this is an output parameter, it takes the value of this and sends it out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's more of a true function, but a view is kind of like a non-manipulatable function, because it's the same every single time. You can't change it, but stored procedures allow you to change them. And I think like the next class up talks about how to build stored procedures.
Yeah.
And of course, there's functions in here as well. You can create your own functions as well, and those are strictly mathematical things. And then you just call them as you would call this here like you'd call anything up here. But that is a rabbit hole I will not go down. Functions can get complicated.
Probably a little beyond the scope of this class.
Oh, way, but stored procedures are way beyond the scope of this class. But it's still good to know that they're out there and they exist. A lot of people don't realize that how capable as a programming language T-SQL is, because it still has the ACID requirements to the programming. Consistent, durable, repeatable, all those things, they're still there, right?
Yeah, just a really specific use case.
Because only for database. Yeah, it's only for databases, right? I was talking to my son about this earlier. You can actually program in Microsoft SQL Server, you can program in C# to get data out. But it's just, if you've ever tried that, it's severely complicated because it's not the same. What's the word I'm looking for? I know it's not the same language, but it's not the same methodology to pull the data out.
Yeah,
So,
it's Yeah, like C sharp, it's going to be a lot more verbose, I'm guessing, and it's
Yeah,
meant for like building actual applications. And then that's the
right.
SQL is just for the specific data handling part. Which
Exactly, exactly. That's why I tell people that whenever I deal with coders who want to bring data out into a front-end application, to build the store procedure and have C sharp, whatever coding language, call that store procedure and the not pass the code from the website into the database, because um, that is gold for hackers and there's, I wonder if I can find, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second if I can. There's a funny cartoon. Let me see if I can scare this up real quick. Um,
Don?
yeah.
I guess there's no secret word anymore for the rest of the week.
We can still do one. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, if we don't need one, that's good. That's cool. I mean,
Okay, if you think I think I made my point with the secret word. So yeah, here it is. Here is a I love this cartoon. Because this talks about why you don't use raw SQL code in programming. Where did my Zoom go? There it is. Okay. Share my screen. There it is. Hope you all find it as funny as I do. Does everyone here know what SQL injection is?
yeah, I could see how that would be unfortunate where something gets like I take it gets injected into the script of the website and then runs in the database.
Yep. So what happens is, the premise is the school's website says type in your student's name. So it typed in Robert colon Robert quote column parentheses semicolon and then drop table. So this completes the thought and then adds a new command in the thing. So it'll drop the table students. This is simple data SQL injection, to where you put a destructive command in a regular input, and because the coder didn't take precautions in their SQL code, it will delete tables. So it's fun stuff. But anyway, so yeah, I guess I think was it Jacob? Were you asking about the secret word? Yeah. So I think
I was just confused if we were done with them because it didn't pop
yeah,
up last week.
yeah, because I was out last week and really since they're not gonna be any more recorded videos, it's not really. I think when I look at my my view count on YouTube, I've had more people view this semester than I've ever had. So it was totally worth it for the 7 weeks we did it. But now we'll see if everyone continues to watch. But that's all the coding I had for you tonight. Do you guys have any questions on your projects? Anything you want to go over with database creation or table creation or anything like that?
Yeah, so on the project, I remember you saying that for the second part, we should think about the quality assurance tests first
Yeah.
before we do the inputs.
Yeah, because so let's say what's your database again?
The one I was doing was the planes, like the
Right.
aircraft.
Right. So the reason I say to do the test cases before you input the data is because I don't want any of the students to be saddled with putting a ton of data in there. All I need is the only data that needs to be in there, honestly, is to return something when I run your test cases. Right.
Okay.
So if you look and see, what your test case would be, and so I don't know with this example, like how many flights left on Vancouver, or how many how many flights did a specific flight number of plane number have, right? So that's one of your test cases. You would then have to put data in the database to satisfy that test case. So you wouldn't have to put in data everywhere, just enough to satisfy to get 1 or 2 lines of data response out of there.
Okay. So when we write those quality assurance, like, do you know, like, how many do we need? And like, so we just kind of say,
I like between 5 and 7.
Okay, so it's like this pilot has this or this
Mm-hmm.
plane or this. Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yep. So between 5 and 7 of those, and with 10 to 12 tables, I think that's a fair amount. Because like I said, what I do is when I grade, how I grade it is I grab all the code you send me, and the first thing I run is the code to create the database. When that's successful, I run the code to populate the database. When that's successful, I run the code to do the test cases on. And if the test cases run successfully, but I don't get any results back, I have to say to myself, is this because the query is not right, or is because there's no data there? So if you plan your queries out, if you plan your data in your tables to make sure that you get results on the queries, then I don't have to have that worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what'll because I finished my schema, so I'm pretty confident about that.
Mhm.
And
I
I was
think
just
what I've seen looks really good, so I think you're doing on the right track.
yeah, and I was just gonna ask on that paper, like, because I wasn't exactly sure what to do for the quality assurance, and so I looked at the resources and I couldn't find like detailed instructions there. So yeah, what I'll do is I think I'll write those like 5 to 7 statements,
Mhm.
and then I'll put that in the paper, and then you can give me feedback, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, I mean anything you put in there, so when you submit it to me, it's like, here's the query and this is why I'm doing it.
Mhm.
I want to know which pilot flew the most in March. I know, and with what you're doing with your database, if I remember correctly, you're keeping pilots in there, like pilots can only fly a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
So this will be like see, like you could have a query for your test case to make sure any pilots who have flown over 80 hours this month, and
Yeah.
red flag them. And that'd be a great use of a case statement, to
Yeah.
where you would have it come out, and instead of saying how many hours, you say breached hours or maximum hours, something like that. So you're not seeing how many hours are flown. You're just returning can't fly.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah. But yeah, so you want to do it that way. And again, it saves you time. I mean, the first couple semesters we did this, I told them to put the data in before they made the test cases, and it was taking like people like a long time to write the queries to get the data into the database, and then they weren't sure that it was going to match up with the test cases.
Mhm.
So I'd rather you write the test cases and make good solid test cases and then put the data in there to match. I think it's just a smarter way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any questions for you, Jacob or Camilla, on your projects? I think you guys are doing projects. I think I've seen your stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing my dental, my dad's dental plan.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep. Doing good on it.
So far,
Okay, cool. And Camilla, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually gonna do more stuff this week, so
Excellent.
hopefully I can show you, like this weekend. I can
Cool.
my paper and
yeah, same here.
Yeah, once the ERD is done, everything else moves really, really fast. The ERD is the hardest part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, but and then like after that, writing while you're creating the ERD, the test case should be kind of flowing through your head, going, oh, I could do this. Oh, I could see this. Oh, I could do this. And they just write them. So yeah, if you guys are finished with the RED between this week and next, I think you're solid, and then you'll get finished in well enough time.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about the test cases, I might modify my ERD just a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's totally up to you.
Oh, another thing. How many tables is it required?
I think between 8 and 10.
8 and 10.
8 and 10. Yeah, there's
okay.
it's kind of funny in databases. If you get to 10, if you get to 8 and try to add more, you usually end up with like 12 or 14. I don't it's never just one or two tables. It always just, because when you get in that frame of thinking, you're like, oh, I could do this, oh, I could do this, oh, I could do this, and all of a sudden you're like 30 tables into it and you're like losing your mind. So I find most people when they get to 8, they've reached a good balance. And some people stop at 10. So between there is a good one. I think the actual requirements are 12, but I've never seen anyone be able to stop at 12 tables. It's like that old commercial about Ruffles potato chips can't eat just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can start going, you get table addicted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think my table actually just naturally stopped at 10. That's where I like was good.
Yeah, and that's where I see that. Like I said, that's where I seem to be the national time. But if you looked at it and you wanted to expand it out, I'm sure you can find other things to do with it. But just stop. If you stop between 8 and 10, you're solid.
Sweet, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. There will be class next week. I'll be covering any questions that anyone has on these on the quizzes or anything like that. I'll be talking about any questions you have for the final projects. So and if anyone wants to go through theirs, we'll share screens and go through the ERDs and discuss them in depth. But from here on out, they won't be recorded anymore, but they will happen. So, and I'll just remind everyone here and anyone who's watching at home, if you need a one-on-one, just let me know. I sit at this computer all day. I can do this really quick to meet you guys. So just send me an email. But it's easy if you want to meet on if you want a one-on-one in Zoom, it's easier to text me and let me know that you want to meet, and then I'll just swing to the right and dial in. All right.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.